if you flop perspectives, pretend that you're investing in a company, and we're not talking about like a couple small real estate deals or what have you. We're talking about you're trying to ring the bell, sell them for 500 million bucks. You have to think massive when it comes to private equity's perspective, but you also have a realistic pathway on how to get there. The systems you build day one, they're not going to be your day 500 systems. And if they are, you haven't grown much. And so scaling that fast, you really have to build the machine versus be the machine. And I say that because at a certain level, you can't take 500 phone calls a week and then do the work and then send 500 invoices and then do the marketing and all the contract stuff in the background. So you have to build it so that you can delegate as you go. And when you first start off, you just want traction. You know, like, hey, one day I'll have this, one day I'll have that. Well, you gotta toe that line, and especially when you grew as fast as we did, our growth was a byproduct of the market that we were in, but also because we built it with the end in mind.
Welcome back to another very special edition of The Root of All Success. This is episode number 291. We're quickly approaching our 300th episode, which will be released, I think, sometime in June or July. So, be sticking around. I can't tell you what I'm going to be doing for the 300th because it's in the works right now, but it's going to be a pretty cool episode. You want to listen. But today, I've got Tyler Dunagin on the show. Tyler, welcome to Nashville. Welcome to the show.
Appreciate it. Glad to be here. 300 is a lot of episodes, by the way. Congrats on that coming up.
Thank you. I had no idea I was going to do this, and I was just on another guy's show the other day, and we were talking about that, and he's at like 1,200 or something. I was like, "Whoa, dude,
wow.
Man, you're killing it." But he started 5 or 6 years before I did, so
jeez.
Most people don't go that far in shows.
Yeah. How frequent do you shoot?
I record, generally speaking, I record one day a month, and I record all day. And so if I'm doing virtually, I'll record 6, which is a long day.
Yeah.
If I do them in person, I do 3. Because that's also a very long. It's the same amount of time to do 3 in person as it does 6 virtuals.
Wow.
So, and we're here today because we tried to get you on a virtual and your microphone wasn't working, and I just happened to mention, I'm booked out till July, but you can fly to Nashville and we could do it like next month or next week.
Had to do it.
So here you are.
Said Nashville. So in Cleveland, it's 30 degrees. It was this morning. I looked at Nashville, it was above freezing. So I'm like, let's go, let's do it.
Yeah, so we're recording this in middle of March, and it's a beautiful day here in Nashville, 77 degrees. This won't be released until June, but I'm glad you're getting to experience a little Tennessee weather. All right, so let's get right into it, Tyler. So you built your company, TurnServe, from the ground up, and you led it to over 1,000% in revenue growth. That's a significant number. You ended up on the Inc. 5000 list as one of the fastest growing privately held companies in the country. What would you say is the defining moment when you knew that this venture would actually be something pretty cool?
So there's a lot of small moments you can think of. I remember one specifically. So I left corporate America. You're just hoping that it works. You have all your eggs in this basket. And I remember I launched the business. We got a couple early clients. And then all of a sudden I got like 2 more and then 2 more. And in the multifamily world, 50% of renters move every year. If you get a couple complexes that have a couple hundred units, you can do the math. That's a lot of service needs. I remember being booked up for 3 days, and by the next afternoon, I was booked out 3 weeks. And that was a moment when I was looking at the emails coming in about clients requesting services that it was a tractionable venture. And I remember looking at my significant other and saying, we're going to be really busy. And she says, yeah, you're going to be really busy hiring because I'm not doing it for you. So that was the initial moment. I knew that there was traction, and I knew that it could be something special. As far as 1,000% special, wasn't really anticipating that, but here we are.
Yeah, well, congrats on the growth.
Thank you.
So, but you left corporate America, kind of doing real estate there to start off on your own entrepreneurial journey. So what was the impetus? Why did you decide I'm going to step out of this corporate job into entrepreneurship?
Sure. So I was managing $250 million worth of multifamily assets, and I was setting up everything from the back end legal and accounting to the front end sales and then maintenance, you name it. Structured a whole company for somebody. And while I was doing it, I was struggling to find a vendor to do what I needed, the turnover process. There wasn't anyone reliable. I searched high and low, and I was like, man, there's got to be a better way of doing this. And when you manage 2,500 units, you really need other people to show up. And I kept on just hitting my head against the wall because there wasn't a solution. And so I actually launched my company as an initial cure to the problems I was having in that portfolio. And so it took off right away within that portfolio, and that was it was an eye opener for me because I realized how big of a need there was. I had the need, my friends in the space had the need, so I just went all in on it, and it just took off.
What year was that when you started TurnServe?
So 2017 is when I started to think about the opportunities. I've always had an entrepreneurial background, and I started to get the itch during corporate America. And I remember sitting down February 2nd, 2018, sitting in front of my computer. My lawyer would hate that I shared this, by the way, but I'm going to anyways. I remember sitting on at my table, and I had a book next to me. I believe it was the book Finish Big, and I just got done reading it, and I was all motivated and whatnot. I got on the Secretary of the State website for Ohio, and I just filed a registration for an LLC. I was like, I'm going all in. Here I go. So it was in my head in 2017, but February 2nd, 2018 is when I finally just said, I'm doing it. I'm going to spend, it's like $100, like, because
Oh yeah.
that'll make it real at that time, just because I'm like putting it into action. And that's when I started it. And within 3 months, we went from $0 in revenue to having like five to $10,000 weeks at that point.
So, real quick, what does TurnServe do? You've alluded to the fact that the turnovers in multifamily renters leaving. So, are you going in and cleaning and painting and carpet, or what is it that you do?
Yeah, so TurnServe is a platform company now, and what I mean by that is it's a one-stop solution for property managers to call on between renters. And we have an arsenal of subsidiaries and brands, all self-started on the platform. For example, apartmentpainters.com, that's us. Apartmentflooring.com, that's also us. And a few others. But when you call a TurnServe, you're able to benefit from all of those services, and they're dependable, they're enterprise scale, so to say, they're convenient, and you don't need to call 20 people. You make one phone call, and we're able to facilitate whatever service it might need, the property might need. And we, on average, if property managers normally take 17 to 18 days to turn over a unit, we're able to do it in less than 3 days on average, just saving thousands of dollars in vacancy loss and whatnot. So really, we sell a convenience through our platform, and it's all self-performing brands. It's all of our own labor. It's all of our own brands. And now we're in the acquisition space to where we're adding other smaller companies onto our platform.
So, are you're adding actually service companies to do some of the work?
Yeah, we're expanding outward. Tomorrow, I was going to stay late this evening and hang out with you guys, but I actually have to fly back for a last minute meeting. We're acquiring a small flooring company in the space,
Okay.
and we'll probably do acquisition growth for the next 2 years.
So, in your 20s, you were managing $250 million worth of assets under management. Now you're going and doing your own thing as an entrepreneur. Have been doing this for 6, 7 years. What did you learn in the corporate world that is actually applied to the entrepreneurial world?
I'm trying to be really realistic with my answer. That's a really good question. I've never been asked that. So I think in the corporate world, the benefits of that side of the street, it teaches you the importance of small things such as timing and how critical hours might be, policy at scale, right? There's a ton of red tape in corporate America and whatnot. While I'm not a huge advocate for all of it, there's some of it that actually is pretty sound. You get access to learn systems. What's a CRM look like? What's a payroll system look like? And if certain things aren't completed, something else isn't going to get done. So really, it was just rhythmic for me and access to bigger systems. If I would have just started off as an entrepreneur, I would have never gotten exposure or access to these massive systems that were in place, and I was able to take away some knowledge based off of the exposure to those.
All right.
And also, corporate America taught me how challenging it is to make sure you find the right people and keeping them in the right seats. So that side of the street also was eye-opening for me.
Yeah. Well, we companies I've owned, we've scaled pretty quickly as well. We like you've been on the Inc. 5000 list a couple times, but scaling fast sometimes has its own problems because you can scale yourself out of business. I've seen it happen. So how did you manage scaling so quickly in such a small amount of time, and what challenges did you overcome during that process?
Yeah, so admittedly, we broke a lot of things internally, right? And in hindsight, reflecting on it, it's almost like that's part of the journey, is what I'm learning now. What I mean by that is the systems you build day one, they're not going to be your day 500 systems. And if they are, you haven't grown much, right? And so scaling that fast, you really have to build the machine versus be the machine. And I say that because at a certain level, you can't take 500 phone calls a week and then do the work and then send 500 invoices and then do the marketing and all the contract stuff in the background. So you have to build it so that you could delegate as you go. And when you first start off, you just want traction. You know, like, hey, one day I'll have this, one day I'll have that. Well, you got to toe that line. And especially when you grew as fast as we did, our growth was a byproduct of the market that we were in, but also because we built it with the end in mind. I mentioned the book Finish Big and a few others as well. So I got lucky because I stumbled into a handful of entrepreneurial based books, M&A books, and they every single one of them mentioned start with the end in mind, build systems up front, and we were able to do that. And that actually saved us a lot of heartache in those first initial years. But you learn that the systems need to be evolving, and more than that too, your people need to constantly be evolving and growing and thinking about what's next. We always say new level, new needs, and so we constantly just reinvent the wheel and just try to make it better.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned that, and I want to kind of camp out on this, even though that's not necessarily what I was going to talk about today. But since you mentioned that, my audience will know that as an exit coach, and I always teach scale with the end in mind, start with the end in mind, et cetera. So I love to hear that you're saying that. I also love that you say that the system you build day one is not the system that's going to help you on day 50.
Yeah.
And I think we get married to our systems, don't you think? Entrepreneurs, they say, well, we build this little thing and it works great. It's our baby. But dude, that baby's only going to work till a certain number, and then it ain't going to work after that. You got to be able to hold them loosely and let them go. But the other cool thing I think that about your story is that you secured private equity, which is something a lot of entrepreneurs they salivate over. They want. Now, whether they actually want it or not is a whole nother conversation. Yeah. And I know you have investors, so you can't maybe speak freely on podcasts about
They're
it.
great.
They're awesome.
Amazing.
They're awesome. They're always awesome, right?
Always.
Publicly. But what was it like? How did you become attractive to these private equity investors?
So the preface is this: I I always desired to get some sort of backing, and I was fascinated with the thought of, wow, somebody's putting in money to help me grow this thing, right? Think about the quality of life that comes with that, and everything else that might as well. And so again, I kind of had this slight advantage because I started with the end in mind and just reversed my math downward. Um, but how to get in front of the right people, it's got to be a combination of things, right? One, it's got to match your own personal goals. I wanted to sell the business before I started it. That's reality of it. Uh, but you need to build something in a space like multifamily. We'll talk about that for a second. Multifamily is not going away. It's steady. It's predictable. It's pretty recession proof, right? We thrived during COVID, for example, and housing is always going to be there. There's always a shortage. Massive, big, growing, predictable market is prime soil for growing, ventures or what have you. That's one part of it. So how do you exploit a market like that? Well, you come in at convenience, innovation, and whatever your offer is, and if you do it in a way that is scalable, those two things combined allow for that rapid growth. And so for us, we started off with the first company I launched on my own platform, so to say, was my painting brand, apartmentpainters.com. And that's cool. It's predictable, 40% margins, all those kind of things, steady. It lacks some salient features, right? Anybody can go paint tomorrow, right?
Right.
That's the reality of it. Our barriers to entry was our client base, our convenience, and we were able to do things at scale that just mom and pops weren't able to do. They can't keep up with the volume. Wasn't quite enough for us to get in front of private equity. And I knew there's a couple boxes I wanted to check personally, but also from a corporate perspective. And what I mean by that is I knew the next thing we needed. So software is always a big thing. Services, B2B, recurring, contracts, those are all important. I always wanted to build a product, and I had no experience building a product. This is the thought of having a tangible, useful thing in your hands versus telling people about the services that you do always just was attractive to me. And so fast forward, we ended up making our own product, Liquid Liner, which is a zero VOC bathtub reliner. It was tested against Sherwin-Williams products, Lowe's, Home Depot's, you name it, all of the best sellers in the space. And we got 10 out of 10 scores. It took 2 years to build this, a lot of R&D, a lot of money. But that product alone, I would say, I'm sure that the investors private equity people, they love the scalability. They love the moats around things. But the second we drop our own product, and that was a big feature of our business, they look at that and they say, we have so much more utility with that as well. Let's pretend these service companies just don't take off, they don't grow. We can't get a 20, 30x return, whatever else it is. We could scale up this product arm, which is now patented and best in the industry, and we can sell this like crazy through our distribution channels. So where I'm going with all that, to bring it back to your question, you need to have something. If you flop perspectives, pretend that you're investing in a company, and we're not talking about like a couple small real estate deals or what have you. We're talking about you're trying to ring the bell, sell them for 500 million bucks. You have to think massive when it comes to private equity's perspective, but you also have a realistic pathway on how to get there. And so for me, we stacked the deck with a lot of different service companies, all specializing in a niche. And then we added our own software on the background to help our companies intertwine and speak together and or speak to each other, and maybe could be licensed in the future. But then we added that product as well, and we just kind of had this trifecta of perceived value in a company. So you take the growth, you take the market, you have to have tractionable results, right? Private equity is not going to invest into an idea. That's more venture capital. Even then, you need a MVP to show. So you have to have some sort of traction behind you, and we had all those things. And I remember when I handed them the product in that meeting, I took a backpack, which is all we need to do our services, and that product. I told them about our services, all these things, and then I said, and by the way, we have best-in-class product, and I got it out and I put it in their hands. The second the product was in their hands and all these things came together, I knew that they were interested. So it takes a few things, but if you take a hard look at what you're doing, the space you're in, make sure that it's viable. As long as it's something that you're excited about, if you're going to exit it one day or you want to talk about how big it could be, if you're excited about the possibilities and the opportunities, they probably will be too. If it's a very small market, not really scalable or what have you, they're probably not even going to give you the time of day.
So are you excited about what you're doing with TurnServe?
I don't know what else I would do. So a lot of people, I get this question all the time, and a lot of people ask, and I say it the same way. Even if they sat me down in the boardroom and said, hey, we're not going to pay you salary anymore, I'd say, okay, that's fine. I'm still going to show up tomorrow. So I absolutely love what I'm doing, from scaling services, products, coming up with things. I call it my professional playground. We have a platform, we have a recurring client base, and we have an infrastructure to build service companies nonstop. And I'm able to craft my ideas just so easily, seamlessly. I know what not to do. I know what to do. And so for me, I have the time of my life, day in and day out. It never feels like work for me. And it's honestly, it's what I've always wanted to do, always.
I'm going to let Tyler take a moment to relight his cigar as I talk about our sponsor for today's show. First of all, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see, or on Spotify, because we actually have our video of this podcast is now on Spotify. So if you watch on Spotify or watch on YouTube, you can see what we're doing right here. And we're enjoying a couple of cigars here and a glass of some bourbon. And we're having a good time. We're at Smokers Abbey in Gallatin, Tennessee. They've got locations here, East Nashville, Memphis, Jacksonville, Austin, and I'm probably leaving out another spot. Big thanks to Joshua Stump, the proprietor, and his team, his manager here, Josh, for letting us use the space. But our title sponsor of today's episode is Dub. If you're in sales, and if you're listening to this or watching this, you are in sales, whether you realize it or not, you need to consider what it's like when you try to reach out to your prospects, your vendors, or even your clients through email. I mean, none of us wake up in the morning and say, I can't wait to read my emails. I can't wait to go through my emails. I can't wait to do that. Because why? Because it's a bunch of crap. It's things you have to read. It's mostly tasks anyway. It's things you have to do. So it's just a big, long, ever expanding to-do list. But with Dub, what if you could video yourself talking directly to the person you want to talk to and send them a quick video where a GIF would actually play really quickly in the inbox when they open it up, and they're like, oh, what is this? And they click, and there's a video of you talking to them where they don't have to read anything. And they can even respond in video if they want to. They could click a thing and record themselves responding to you. That's one aspect of Dub, the part that I like the most. But they have all kinds of features. They've got a video library that you can put in there. They've got AI built into it. They've got a sales agent built into it. They've got a CRM built into it. Dub is amazing. I've actually used Dub as a customer since 2018, I think. I think maybe back since when they began. And Ruben and Darius, the guys that founded it, are phenomenal guys. They're based here in the United States, right in California. They do a great job. I want you to go check them out. Get your first 2 months at 50% off with my link. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/dub. That's therealjasonduncan.com/dub. That's DUBB. Once you use them, you'll never look at email the same. All right, so Tyler, TurnServe is not just another property management company. I mean, there's tons of property management companies out there. You're changing the game with these tech-driven solutions, product-driven solutions. What's the most exciting innovation in that industry right now? Whether you're involved in that innovation or not, what's the most exciting thing?
So there's a handful that's going on. You see a lot on the financial side, predictable AI. You look at security deposit replacement, insurance options. So there's a lot of tech coming into the space. A lot of it is on the financial side of the street right now, and it's slowly starting to get in the operational side. There's still a massive untapped market. So I'm excited about the AI and all the predictableness it'll bring. But I'm more excited about the opportunity and how it's going to collide into the operational space from vendor management. There's payable management as well. There's a lot for sales and marketing that's going to be coming out. I'm actually involved in one of the projects for a cool software sales AI that's coming out soon. So there's anywhere you look, it's an outdated industry that's primed for opportunities. So I'm excited about all of it, to be honest with you.
So with TurnServe, being in the property management business in that space, there's probably a lot of misconceptions about property management. I don't know multifamily. I have short-term rental, but I'm certain that there are some misconceptions about what property management is. What's one misconception people have that you'd like to set the record straight on?
So there's a million ways to look at property management. Example, what I mean by that is there's some firms that they'll simply just manage where somebody lives and nothing more. We're a little bit different because we're providing our own services. We're coming up with companies to provide solutions, you name it. Some property management companies get a bad rap. Hey, they're very strict on rules, regulations, etc. There's a lot of challenges in multifamily, and from affordable to market rate and beyond. There's a lot that goes on. Property managers are probably the most overwhelmed position in the workforce, and attrition is awful. If you think about it, these staffs are overwhelmed. They have too many work orders. The normal equation goes per 100 units, there's supposed to be one maintenance person that's ready. I mean, think about it. If you live in a complex, how often, hey, the disposal's bad, my lights out, whatever it might be, you're supposed to have one per 100. Right now, the average is probably one per almost 300 units. So there's a big shortage. And so when these two things collide, you have people's lives where people live. They want things done. Like, hey, I want to sleep in a sound spot. My kids live here. My family lives here. There's that aspect, which I understand that and I follow that. And I even today, like if something breaks, if I'm renting somewhere, staying somewhere, I want it fixed, what have you. But on the other side, on the workforce side, there's a massive shortage and everything is outdated. And so these two things are just recipe for oil and water. And you can imagine the kind of, some of the notions that might come around for certain policies and procedures that are around today that will hopefully soon get ironed out in the
So
future.
is TurnServe geographically located where you only serve in certain geographic markets, or is it nationwide?
So right now we're in 5 cities, and it's where it's not virtual or anything like that. It's self-performing work. When we got private equity backed, we launched from Cleveland to Akron, Cincinnati, Columbus, Indianapolis. We're getting into Chicago, Detroit, Pennsylvania, New York, like all these other places as well. And it requires on-field personnel. Now, we also have a contracting arm where we can find local contractors, no matter what market it is, send them through our training process, have them use our products and services, software, you name it, and provide solutions that way. But for us, we're going to be in about 25 cities in the next 2 years. And so we physically have to be in that presence now, in that location to provide our services.
Yeah, I was going to ask about limitation to growth and expansion. Is it just a matter of having the database of service providers before you can actually go to the property to say, hey, I can get you the painters and the floor people and the plumbers and the electricians to come in and do the turns?
Yeah.
Is that what's the limitation?
Yeah, a lot of the times that's what it is. There's no shortage in need in that space. Example, one of our largest clients has Our largest has 2 million units across the US. Second largest has around 150,000 units across the US. And they're in 50 different cities. And when you do a good job for them in one spot, they say, hey, how fast can you get out to wherever it might be? So really, it's low-hanging fruit. It's as fast as you can assemble and provide a good service. That's as quickly as you can grow your business in the space. Um, Finding contractors to do the work is normally the challenge, and that's why we self-perform a lot of our own. But also at the same time, that's why we also compartmentalize our service offerings. And that's why we have a painting company, a flooring company, a tub refinishing company, and all these things. Because if you try to find one person that can do everything, that labor pool is tiny.
Mm.
But if you find and make processes like what we have, where generalists can follow them, simple step by step, 1, 2, 3, here's how you do it. That's what the innovation and convenience that we offer. The labor pool for that is much larger. Our best employees today, some of them come with zero maintenance background, zero property management background, but they're really good team members and they can follow a process like no other.
All right, that leads me directly into my next question. You've built multiple successful companies, and I know that culture is a big part of your ethos as a leader. So, why do you believe that company culture is important and how it relates to what you just talked about?
It's everything. So you could talk policy procedure all day long. Here's how we do certain things, you name it. That's going to get stale. When people can make an impact and feel it beyond what hits their bank account, that's when they buy in. That's when people get motivated. And from a company standpoint, one, all of my managers up have phantom equity in my companies. That way, if I win, they win. So first, incentivizing them to their interests aligned with mine is super important. To answer your question, that culture, the core values, purpose, all of those things. Our purpose at TurnServe is to to foster well-being by beautifying spaces. That sounds very, at first, it's like, oh, that's cool. But when you're living that day in and day out, your team members show up 5 days a week, whatever else it is. If they're just looking at the clock, clock in, clock out, and go home, you're going to get mediocre results. What I've learned, the more we invest in executive coaching, we have all these things that we do for our team members. The more we spend on that, the more collaboration, the more support we offer one another, the faster we move. So on the business optics side, culture can really relate to speed and retention. On the worker side, because I'm also an employee of my companies, you walk in, you could feel how a company like is. You could feel the vibes always. And if I ever walk into a room like, oh man, this is awkward, my production is going to be about 20% of what it could be. So really, it comes full circle. The more impact we can make through culture-driven initiatives, you name it, the better off our clients will be, the better off our team members will be, and their families. Culture is everything in an organization. And I used to think that that was not always the case. 8 years ago or 7 years ago, guys, that's great. Let's focus on processes. As we have scaled as fast as we have, I know without a doubt, culture is the number one thing on top of good policies and procedures. If you don't have one without the other, it's not going to scale. It's just not going to happen. You're going to lose people. They're going to show up and do 20% of what they're capable of, and it's going to be a nonstop, I'm at work feeling 24/7.
For the record, I agree with you 100%. I believe that culture is an undervalued thing from a leadership perspective, especially as business owners. We don't value it enough. We just driving to get the work done, make the revenue, make the profitability. What is one culture initiative that you've put in place that's tactical and practical that would be a benefit for the listeners to hear? It's like, oh, okay, I could do something like that.
So one big thing, without getting into what our core values are and all that is, we encourage reasonable, meaningful disagreements. We have a weekly roundtable, and anybody can sit in on these. You don't need to be a 10-year employee with an MBA to say your piece. And when you create a platform and an environment to where somebody can say, hey, I want to try this, like, what do you guys think about this? If something goes wrong, as long as we measure it and know why it went wrong, there will never ever be a question of like, why did you think to do that? I can't believe you. As long as that person is putting the company first with the client in mind, it's always a win. So I think that's probably one thing that's a lot different for us, and how to include our younger or early or just joined us employees when they can sit down in the room that's been doing it for years together, and there's a newcomer that came in, and we look at that person and we say, here's the optics. I probably have a bias. She might not have a bias on this. What's your take on this? And they're all of a sudden they're in the conversation day one. Now, that might not be the most meaningful outcome. It might not be the best answer, but that doesn't matter. It's the thought process. It's them embracing it and feeling included. If you can make somebody feel included and they contribute to an outcome, that person is going to go to bat for you time and time again. And when you put their needs ahead of your own, same outcome. So just having that openness of, I never want to say, I'm the CEO, this is how we do things. Zero. Like my whole team would like go to 50% like right away. But the second I ask somebody their opinion and I mean it and I let them try things without fear of like, backlash, so to say, they're going to show up and just go to bat time and time again.
How do you balance that with a board and private equity
Yeah.
who may not share your values on that?
Sure. Challenging. But at the end of the day, it comes back to our focus. Everything we do, nothing is individual ego driven at all. It is always about our customer's experience or providing a better product in general. So our mindset is this: if the company does well, it takes care of a lot of people, and that's how we kind of frame it. We would never just do something that was, hey, I kind of want to try this. There's no win-win here at all. So it's got to be focused on something that could be productive, and that has allowed me a little bit of wiggle room. If I didn't have that aspect, they'd probably maybe slash the R&D budget a little bit. But everything that the team does, everything that we've gotten into has always been client focused, team focused, and that's it. If it's anything else, hey, let's try this after work sometime. But really, we just keep the main thing the main thing.
I wasn't planning on asking this question, but the more you talk about this, the more intrigued I become about this idea of how private equity is playing into your plan. So you started the company in 2018, and it was just you, or did you have somebody else at the time?
Just me and my significant other.
Okay.
I was the only employee for the first 12 months. And I'll add this, I was paid, I looked at my tax return, I made $23,000 that year. That was my income, my gross income.
What were you making in the corporate world before you did that?
Almost 200,000.
Yeah. So this is the sacrifice that we make as entrepreneurs, and it's normal. It's normal. It's not fun, but it's part of the process, part of the journey. So when did you bring in a partner or equity that split your complete control of the company?
Sure. So I would say probably, well, that one of our early employees bought in because it was just me and I needed somebody to help. And so minority, like, hey, I want to be part of this. Here you go. Great team member, by the way.
And then when you say bought in,
Yeah.
literally bought in or like mentally bought in?
Legitimately bought in. So
Okay.
I'll give you the quick story on that. So Thomas from my team, shout out Tom, he was a teacher. And that's your background
Yeah,
as
I
well.
was a teacher.
And I remember he came to me, we got introduced to a mutual friend. And this is when the company just started really like, I say took off, but when you go from coming from zero, I mean, having 4 days worth of work is taken off.
Yeah, that's right.
And I remember I was doing it, and it was almost the summertime. That's when teachers obviously have more time. And hey, my friend says, hey, somebody wants to meet you. They're just looking for some extra work, just a summer gig. Is that okay? I'm like, oh, that's perfect. I was afraid to commit to hiring somebody full time because I wasn't sure how good the business would do or what have you. I didn't want somebody to quit their job to come work for me quite yet. So when I heard that, I was like, yeah, that's perfect. Like if it doesn't work out, they're okay. There's no loss. So worked the whole summer. We got along so well. His strengths really combated my weaknesses and vice versa. It wasn't necessarily like a best friendship kind of thing. Obviously, you have to enjoy the people you work with. From a function and utility standpoint, we were perfectly mirrored or matched with each other. I was good at some things, he was all flat and vice versa. And so at the end of the summer, he was like, so I got I don't know what it's called, the educational contract offer or whatever it is. And he's like, I don't want to sign it. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, all right, dude, I hope you figure it out. And he said this to me like 3 days in a row. And he said it again. I was finally like,
He was dropping hints.
yeah, I was like, dude, like you got to be real literal with me. Like, help me understand. Like, are you asking my opinion on that? He's like, no, I want to pitch something to you. I was like, pitch? And he was like, what if I didn't go back to teaching? I was like, then you don't go back to teaching. And he's like, but what if I bought into the company instead? I was like, oh, I see. And like, you feel like an idiot because for a week, 2 weeks, he's been dropping hints. And I remember, so fast forward, for 3 weeks straight, I told him, I tried to talk him out of it no matter what. I wasn't selling the vision. I wasn't selling what it could be. I was literally saying like, so most small businesses go bankrupt. It was nonstop. I was like, I need you to talk to your accountant, your banker, your mom, dad, whoever else you lean into, and they're all going to tell you not to do it. And I hope that you get talked out of it. I was like, because if you do buy in and it goes wrong, this is my way of not feeling bad. And he was like, okay. He comes back 3 days later. He's like, So can we get the ball rolling with it? I was like, man, like we're supposed to talk you out of it. And so we went through the whole process. This is when I learned everything about operating agreements and what have you. And next thing you know, now he's a minority owner of the company, and he was employee number one. So
Can you share the equity, or is that a private
I
thing?
know I don't think it's a big deal. So it's minority. So when he bought in at the time, because keep in mind we've also diluted through funding rounds. He initially had 17.5% of the company.
So how did in the world did you come up with 17.5%? That's crazy.
Yeah. So for us, I didn't know. Like I just talked to a lawyer about it and somebody that I trusted, and I was like, help me understand this because the trap is 50-50 split, right?
Oh, you never do that.
Yeah, that's awful. And so for us, I kind of had a perceived value based off of the books I read. I'm like, all right, I have a contract here. I could argue this or what have you. I remember sitting down with Michael, my lawyer, and I was like, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I have no clue what this should be. And he's like, well, let's put a valuation on this thing if we had to, and here's where it can be. So it's a little bit lower than it normally would have been, but he had perks and incentives to earn more equity throughout his employment with us too.
So 17.5%, but now it's been diluted, of course, with private equity coming in.
Yeah.
So private equity came in when? So you started in 18.
Yep.
Tom came to work for you when?
Almost like 19.
Yeah,
Like
so 19.
somewhere.
He worked through the summer of 19.
Yep.
So when did private equity show up?
So private equity came in July of 24.
Oh wow! So there's a big gap there, 5 years.
Yeah, and in that time, the companies they're scaling so fast and just organically. We didn't even have a sales team. Like as funny as that sounds, there was a period of like 2.5, 3 years, give or take, because the deal didn't happen in a day. Like it took 6 months. But during that time frame, we were just slinging it. Like I was still painting, I was still flooring, I was still everything, just getting it going. And so, and also, I wasn't paying myself much anymore. Like
$23,000.
yeah, and so overhead was very low. So I didn't need it, but I talked to a mentor and I said, hey, this thing really has potential. Like, take my owner bias out of this. I really think that this thing can grow legs. And he looked at it. He's like, your growth. And by this point, we went from like I don't even know what our first year sales was. It wasn't great. The second year we did like $685,000, and I was like, man, like if I could replicate myself 10 times, we're doing good. And then he said, yeah, but you're gonna need some working capital, right? And I was like, you tell me. He's like,
And who said this?
so Mark Blauschild of Famous Supply,
Okay.
greatest guy in the world, early mentor of mine. We call him friends of the company because I can call him right now, Mark, I need you. What do you need? Like, and he's just there for me. He's there for my team too. And he's the one that encouraged, look at growth capital. And he was the one that actually introduced us to the private equity company, or the private equity team, I should say, that ended up investing in us. So
Wow.
yeah.
Well, I also know that from looking at your background and what you're doing is that social impact is a big thing for you and giving back to the community. Why do you believe that that is an important thing? And the reason I want to ask that is because I see a lot of times, and take your time. I'll keep talking, give you time to light that up. Um, a lot of times entrepreneurs, especially generation, what is it? It's the millennials, which I guess you're technically a millennial. You're a younger millennial. Believe in this, but a lot of times to the detriment of the company. I just want to give back. I don't care if we make any profit. Well, you can't give back if you don't have profit. If you don't have any money, you can't do anything. So when and how did that become a part of your ethos as a company to do community give backs and social
Yeah,
impact?
I think so. We were lucky in the space that we were in because some good example early on was we did some affordable housing. Keep in mind, a lot of people that rely on affordable housing, they have limitations or a disability or something along those lines. And for us, when we're going into a complex, it's all government regulated, you name it. And there's people like we would do jobs and complete them, and we would have somebody just in tears that showed up and like, this is my house. This is the first house I've ever had of my own. It's an apartment, obviously. And that's when we started like realizing like, wow, we can make a big impact for people more than just putting paint on the wall. There's a deeper purpose here. So that kind of got the team thinking. And in our weekly roundtables, we always talk about things that we're very lucky to have, like things that new concepts we didn't realize, lessons that we learned. And there was a common theme in the fabric of, man, this new tenant was so happy, or this property manager that like, we literally saw the stress note off their face because of whatever it might have been, or we would start working in opportunity zones where nobody lived ever, like in East Cleveland, for example, because of the economic landscape there, and we're restoring these houses where before they just didn't have anything, and so that kind of started the initiative. And the deeper we got into that, and we looked at it even further, what else can we do here? We talk about the environment, health and safety, and beyond that. That's actually what led us to make our own pour over zero VOC bathtub liner and liquid liner, because the way that the industry operates today, it's a hazmat suit with sprayers with toxic chemicals, and it's just bad quality of life. And so we developed a new process. It didn't require expertise. A generalist can get a job doing it with us. So now we're able to help more people get jobs, and our product is completely safe. It's odorless, zero VOC, no skill set at all to apply it. Not to undermine our employees, but we made it that simple where you just pour it over, it self levels, you roll it on, and that's it. And so all of those things, just we started like as a team. We talk about culture and purpose and what drives us. That's what we ended up talking about the most. Obviously, the KPIs and everything else is important, but we realize the more we're able to update and innovate and focus on our purpose, and as long as it's aligned with putting the company first, we're able to accelerate our growth without compromising. I always think about when Elon took over Twitter initially, and not to knock them, but there was a lot of staff, there was a lot of feel good things going on, and the company was going to go out of business. You saw what Elon did there with the whole come in and cut costs and everything else like that. I'm not saying I'm vouching that 100%, but you mentioned, how do you not lose sense of the business? How do you not lose sight of profit and loss? End of the day, those things matter. So our social approach, how we're trying to give back, everything else like that, it's always through as a byproduct of the performance of the company. We run open books. There's nothing left to wonder about our profit and loss from our employees. How many jobs we have that day? What's our labor rate? What's our conversion ratio? What's the top, middle, and bottom line? Everything is transparent with the exception of obviously personal details about somebody, maybe their salary or what have you. But when those things are open book and you have goals in mind, you have a purpose behind you, it's a recipe for success. It really is.
Out of all the success that you have experienced, what would you think, or what would you say is the number one key that has unlocked success for you more than anything else?
I think it's two things. I'm going to cheat on this answer a little bit. The first thing is a deep sense of curiosity. That is the first thing that has always just pushed me to innovate and learn and all of those things. So the success where I'm at, I'm a really good creative and an operator. I know how to build frameworks and compartmentalize them and make sure the X's and O's make it down the journey and still talk the same language, speak the same language. So a deep sense of just curious how things work. Like I look at a new trade going on, like, can we do that better? That's how we started 6 other companies, just having that sense of curiosity and wanting to make an impact. And I think the other side of that, so my background, college football, semi-pro football, sports throughout childhood, you name it, I'm a naturally competitive person. I think more than anything, I just have this relentless drive to try to do a little bit better. Like uh, my executive coach will say, like, govern this a little bit. I just want to provide a better service. I want to do better than the next person. Like I want to make sure that I do the best job that's possible out of me. And so this relentlessness has always followed me in my life, no matter what it is. Curiosity compared or also paired with being relentless has just been a recipe for me on the internal side of things. There's a lot of external things as well, but internally, those things really move my dials.
How do you define the word success?
I think if you boil it down, you could decide if you're if how I describe success is this: um, am I doing what I want to do? And it doesn't mean that there's not seasons of your journey where, hey, I don't want to do this. Like I do weekly financial calls, and that's not my ideal success, right? But the reality of it is, I always ask myself, is this what I want to do? Am I able to show up and do what I want today? Am I able to, do I get to do what I set out to do? For me, that's successful. Being able to provide for my family under my own terms and building something that wasn't there, turning a thought into reality, it does it for me. If I'm able to control my own destiny, good, bad, and different, as long as I have the option and the outcome is mine to own, that is success for me. That's what moves my dials like no other. Yeah, I'll leave it there because I can go down a rabbit hole with that. But yeah, that's really end of the day what it is.
Based on that definition, which I think is a good one, do you consider yourself successful?
Mostly is my answer. And I say that because there's still things that I have wanted to do, that I've set out to do, that I have not achieved yet, that I have failed at numerous times, that I have not quite put together the puzzle pieces yet. Um, and there's still things to where, uh, you know, I would say it's probably 90-10, right? And that 10% is me being a little bit, how can we make it a little bit better or what have you. I think I'm mostly successful based on off of that criteria. But there's still things to where I'm reactive instead of proactive, and I'm trying to also eliminate that aspect of my where I'm at on my career journey.
Put on your coach's hat for a second. If you had to coach the entrepreneurs that are listening to this show, what's your best piece of entrepreneurial advice?
The best piece of advice is first I would try to understand why you want to do what you do. And most people can say, I want to make money, right? You got to think a little bit beyond that. And look, money's okay. Like that's great. If you're motivated by money, knock yourself out. Like that's awesome. Money does a lot of things for people. But ask yourself a little bit deeper. Oh, I wonder why I want that. I wonder why that is. If you could understand your psychology and your desire and where does that come from, if you can scratch that itch, you are going to do incredible things because you're going to serve that time and time again on your journey. If you just set out and say, I'm going to make 10 million bucks and call it good, props to you if you can make that work. But I think a lot of the times you're going to come back, you're going to be faced in situations where you really have to be motivated intrinsically to achieve a goal. And if you know how you're wired, if you know your reason, if you know your purpose before the start, that's going to help out immensely.
All right, rapid fire section here as we get ready to close it down. What's the number one book every entrepreneur has to read?
Number one book, without question, is As a Man Thinketh, James Allen. Have to start and end with that one. It's a quick read, no question. If people reach out to me, that is it time and time again. I won't give them a recommendation 2, 3, or 4 or beyond until they read that book.
Favorite Cleveland sports moment of all time?
It's got to be the Cavs, right? I'm 34. There's probably some older ones, don't get me wrong, but Cavs championship, it's where it's at.
If you could go back and give your 20-year-old self one piece of advice, what would you say?
Keep going. Keep going. There's going to be a lot of doors that look sealed shut. There's going to be nights where you have tears in your eyes because you're so frustrated. I promise you, you will find your way as long as you're doing it for the right reasons. Keep going is what I tell myself.
All right, man. Well, congratulations. You've succeeded in tremendous ways as a 34-year-old. So you are to be commended for your success. I'm honored to know you. I've got other things I want to talk to you about. We'll do that post-show. But I'm very honored that you flew in to be here on the show as a friend of the Root of All Success. We appreciate you being here. I want you to give people an opportunity to touch base with you. So how would they connect with you?
So I'm very active on LinkedIn and the social media channels, all the main ones, Instagram, Twitter, X, that's where I'm at. Also, I've put together kind of my own collective, so to say, where it has some of my hobbies, some of my business interests and whatnot. DunaginCollective.com. My name, collective.com, is where you can find me. Reach out to me. I will always engage. As long as it's not an automated AI sales pitch, I'm going to respond. I'll network. I want to hear your idea. I want to contribute. Even if I don't benefit from it, I just want to get out there. So reach out to me.
Tyler Dunagin, thank you for being on the show, man.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Well, there you have it, another very successful entrepreneur with his journey to success in just a few short years. I mean, think about it, 2018 to now, we're 2025. That's only 7 years to see how fast he can go, where he's gotten to, Inc. 5000. Go back and look at Tyler's stuff. Go check out Tyler Dunagin Collective, right, Tyler?
DunaginCollective.com.
DunaginCollective.com to check out some of the other stuff about him. But make sure you always tune in again to this show. Listen to these great interviews I have with some amazingly successful entrepreneurs. And now it's that time of the show for our new segment that we just introduced over the last couple of episodes, and this is JD's Public Service Rants. This is when I talk about something that shouldn't need to be talked about, but clearly it does. So what I'm going to talk about today, if you're the person doing this thing, consider yourself on notice. So here we go. If you're the office coffee thief, then we need to have a conversation. If you go to the office coffee pot and you take that last cup of coffee and you don't push the button to make another cup of coffee, we all hate you. I mean, just think about it. The directions are written right there on the coffee pot, how to make that next cup. and you're just prohibiting somebody who has a caffeine need to come in and get a cup of coffee because you were lazy. So don't be that guy. Now, I hope that you like these little service rants, because these are something I've wanted to do for a long time. And if you've got an idea for one of these, just drop me a line, let me know. But in the meantime, don't be that guy. Well, I'm the real Jason Duncan. Thank you for tuning in this week. Make sure you tune in again next week for another successful entrepreneur and how he got to, or she got to, their level of success. As always, I am the real Jason Duncan. This is the root of all success, and Jesus is King.
Attention business owners. Attention business owners. Feeling burnout from running your business? Uncertain if you're nearing burnout? Take our free 10-question business burnout test at businessburnouttest.com to discover where you stand. With just 10 quick questions, you'll learn how to immediately begin making changes to regain freedom and success. Cut your daily operations time in half. Improve your quality of life and prepare your business for your future exit without losing revenue or profit. Visit businessburnouttest.com now and take the test. Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.